Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Bunjil Place. Bunjil Place proudly acknowledges the traditional custodians of this land, Casey's Aboriginal communities and their rich culture, and we pay respect to elders past, present and emerging. We acknowledge Aboriginal people as Australia's first peoples and as traditional owners and custodians of the land upon which we work, live and make art. So my name is Sarah Lyons. I'm the Education and Audience Engagement Officer here at Bunjil Place Gallery, and it is my absolute honour to welcome you to the March edition of Art Bites, Suburbia and Queer Creativeness. So before I hand over to our panel for our excellent discussion, we have food and drink available tonight that you can snack on throughout the talk and also after the talk as well. So just hop over to the bar behind you and help yourself. And we are also going to film this talk tonight, and that will be available on the Bunjil Place website in a couple of weeks' time. So tonight, we have very special artists we are joined by tonight. Dean Adams, Sam Kariotis, and Ngino Amum. And our moderator for tonight is TagaBarrio. Barrio? Barrio. Yeah. I nearly got there. I was close. Close, but no cigar. So TagaBarrio translates to from a small village or a small section of a town that is usually in poverty in Filipino and Spanish languages. They are a queer Filipino immigrant artist who has been residing and creating work on the lands of the Kulin Nation for about 10 years now. And I'm going to hand over to you.
Awesome. Thank you. Hello. Okay. I'm live. Hello, everyone.
You're good.
Before I keep going, I also just want to do a couple of acknowledgement. I acknowledge the land that I migrated on. This is the land of the Kulin Nations, and I acknowledge the elders that are emerging past and present also in this land, and that sovereignty has never been ceded, and that, of course, the violence of colonialism is still heavily felt amongst Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities inside and outside of Australia. And also, of course, because we are a queer panel tonight, I want to acknowledge all the efforts and hard work of our past LGBTQIA members. I feel like I have to say this because we don't get acknowledged a lot, especially the work that has been done with our elders in our community. So wherever they are, or if they're still existing, thank you so much for all your hard work. And we hope that the newer generation will also keep that in mind. And lastly, it is March, so happy Women's Month to everyone that identifies as women. So yes, thank you all for coming and joining us tonight, and I cannot wait to have this discussion. Queerness in suburbia and also being a creative is something that exists, but it's just not often talked about. So when I was approached by Sarah with this opportunity, I was so happy because we always talk about art opportunities in the Southeast. Where is it? Where are opportunities? But looking at the lens of being queer, being in the LGBTQIA community, there's another intersectionality that we have to realize and understand. So I'm really glad that we have such a diverse panel today. So we will have 3 questions that will explore this topic more. And I just want to let everyone know that some of the things that we might talk about is something you might not agree upon, but I just want to say we'll just agree to disagree. Let's keep it a safe space for everyone. And there is also a time that you, as our audience, can ask them questions. So I'm so happy I'm the moderator, not on the hot seat tonight. So good luck, the 3 of you. But anyways, before I take up all the time speaking, I will let the artists introduce themselves. So again, I'm TagaBarrio, or I also go by Lara Huwab. I don't have pronouns because in our language we don't have a gendered pronoun, which is I love it. Everyone's equal. But yeah, so if you guys want to introduce yourself, maybe we'll start with Dean.
Hi, everyone. I am Dean Adams. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm a Melbourne-based artist working mostly in ballpoint pen and acrylic paints.
Nice. Hey, Sam Kariotis, he, him. Do a lot with art stuff, but I'm mostly doing digital collage, installation, some video work, mostly about my identity as a trans guy and how that relates to like being ex-Catholic and all that stuff. So yeah.
Hey, I'm Ngino Amum. I am a multidisciplinary artist in the Southeast. I mainly focus on painting and drawing and navigating spaces between my intersections. I run a queer collective in the Bunjil Place called Over the Rainbow. And yeah, that is a little bit about me.
Awesome. Thank you all. And just to warm up the conversation, one of the organizations I'm in, we always talk about a sweet banana or the highlight of the day. So before I put you on the hot seat,
Okay. Yeah.
tell me your sweet banana. So sweet banana is something that made you happy for, like, I don't know, today. Could be your food, a drink, a little butterfly. So I don't know, whatever you feel like. So who wants to go ahead first? We're looking at Nino. Yes.
Everyone's like, so the other night I was just chilling with my roommate, just having a 6-hour conversation with them until
Yeah.
like 1 a.m. It
As you
was
do.
like chill, just hanging out. You know,
Just
each
a
other.
low-key chill conversation.
Yeah, it was chill, thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, and just hanging out. It was fun. I liked
Awesome.
it.
Thank you.
I didn't do much today, but I bought a couple of CDs, which I haven't bought in a while. Got some grime CDs. Yeah, I got some good music. That was it.
Cool. I was hoping you say sweet banana is your outfit because
Oh,
I'm
thank
digging
you.
it.
Thanks. Yeah, it's my mother's shoes, my boyfriend's shirt. I got this jacket when I was like 15. That's it.
Wow. That's a whole fit.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dean.
I think my sweet banana is. I'm still on a high after making things official with the guy I've been seeing.
Yay! Congrats.
Okay, belated happy Valentine's Day.
We've been seeing each other for like nearly 4 months, and then a few days ago he was like, "Want to be boyfriends?" I'm just like, "Oh my god, okay,
so
yeah, let's do it."
There is hope for everyone. Thank you.
Yes, there's hope for everyone out there.
Awesome. Thank you. And for me,
what is
in
your sweet
case
banana?
you're asking. Oh, no. I just put myself there.
Tell us, what is your sweet banana?
My sweet banana, guys, is I'm gonna have crispy pork belly fried rice.
Hell yes. Oh,
I love
God.
my rice. I have it tattooed on my leg. So if you peep later, I will show you the rice sack that I have. So, anyways.
Wait, you have the rice tattooed on your leg?
Yeah,
You're my
near my
hero.
knee. It gives me strength. That's what it is.
You're my hero.
Anyways, enough. Okay. Thank you all. I hope you guys, warmed up to the conversation. Well, now, our first question for tonight is, how do you find the community in general when it comes to art opportunities? So, do you feel like there's a supportive group here in the Southeast? Does being away from the city influence that? Or have you found a lot of opportunities that centers, supporting fellow queer creatives? And do you feel that your practice is welcome? Because I know with some of you, it's quite tongue-in-cheek for some people. And with a queer background as well, it just intensifies that. So maybe we'll ask Sam.
Yeah.
To start off.
I mean, honestly, I work with you with Connection Art Space. I think honestly finding that space was so important for me because, I studied at RMIT for 4 years and everyone I met was like very much inner city art space. And when I found Cass, it was the first time that I found a space in the Southeast that was related to art stuff. Obviously there's Bunjil Place, but it was the first time I was like, oh, cool, there's also opportunities down here. Why isn't this more of a thing? But yeah, I don't know, I feel like it's supported to a degree. Obviously we need to do more stuff, but I feel like we've got a really good, close-knit community here, and it's really, really important. But yeah, I like it.
May I ask, because with the themes of Catholicism and being a trans guy, being put in your work, that's quite visible. How do you find the suburban folks with that?
Honestly, not. It's pretty good. There was a
Yeah.
time where, not related to Suburbs specifically, but I was working with, I think it was, I'm not sure if it was, like, it was definitely a council-related thing. I think it was with Signal, and they were like, hey, you have to change the video work you're doing because it was, like, too political or too religious, which is kind of funny. But honestly, it's really supportive. Like, it's especially, like, again, working with cast and stuff. But yeah, not as, like, I don't know, it's more open than I was expecting, but in a really comforting way.
I'm surprised too. which
Yeah,
is
and
great.
like, oh, cool. Like, you got, like,
It's a good disappointment.
yeah, it's like, oh. I mean, considering one of my works was literally just like Jesus on a cross with "Take it like a man" underneath it, I was like, that didn't get flagged. Cool.
That sounds
Awesome.
metal as fuck. That's amazing.
Dean or Nino, do you want to add more?
I think I'm in a unique position because I come from a split family household. So I used to live in Hoppers Crossing with my mother during the weekdays and go to my dad's in Dandenong on the weekends. So, and then after high school, I kind of moved to my dad's place in Dandenong to study my Cert 3 and my diploma in visual arts. And I think that's when I started studying that, a whole worldview kind of opened up, a new worldview opened up, and I managed to navigate, luckily, and find little pockets of communities and art communities all around Melbourne, not just in one specific place. It was little bits and pieces here and everywhere. I also am a drag performer. My name is Linuendo. Follow me on Insta.
So good.
But I think being around that as well caused me to kind of network a little bit harder. And it was only until recently I discovered through finding a connection art space.
So much.
Yeah.
I'm getting teary up here.
Finding connection art space that it was kind of that moment of, oh, there is an art community here. This is amazing. Why wasn't this around when I was there?
Because the drag industry is quite different
Yes, it
to
is.
visual arts,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
It's performance art, but yes, it's vastly different. It's a different kind of world to the visual arts. Because your art in drag is already like how you present and what your performances are. Whereas being a visual artist, you have time to kind of mull it over, or sometimes it's not you being the center of attention, it's the artwork being the center of the attention. So you can kind of, have a break, have a sit down, and kind of have a think about what's going on.
And do you find that there's a lot of drag opportunities in the southeast or in the suburbs, or is it welcomed here? How do you feel
I
about
feel
that?
like with initiatives that the Rainbow community here in Casey have done, like the Rainbow Picnic and the recent production of Southeast Soiree, if we can keep doing those more often, like those kind of events, those kind of initiatives, and even not just night events, something during the day that is queer related, that's either art-based or getting it's like any hands-on kind of activity to get the Southeast involved in, being educated and being slowly accepting of queer people here in the Southeast. So, yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. Nina, do you want to add to this?
Yeah, I feel like for me, in terms of finding queer spaces and queer opportunities, it was kind of difficult navigating being a black woman as well, because people would then just see me as a queer person and not like incorporate my intersection. So I found it difficult to find my space. And so that's when I was like, you know what, I can just make my own. And so kind of navigating being the one producing these events is something that I'm still struggling with and still trying to navigate myself, and kind of looking up to people like you to like be like, oh, okay, director, let's do this.
Oh my God.
That kind of thing. Yeah, my little take on it.
Okay, thank you all. Why do you have to make me blush now? Sorry, guys. Should have worn a mask. If I knew this, I would have worn a mask.
Go in the hot seat.
Wait to flip the tables, huh? But thank you all for that lovely discussion. Now we're moving on to our second question for the night, which we've kind of touched on. So, of course, as queer people in the LGBTQ community, they always seem, I know you all know this, that a lot of straight people seem to have this stereotype of what gayness or being LGBTQ should look like. Like for gay, siblings, they think it's always like colorful, glitter, or like super extra, or they go like, like whenever they talk, it seems like they're singing, which is not the case. We know that's not the case. And for lesbian folks, it seemed to be always like butch type, it's this. We're always put into these boxes. And it's interesting because this stereotype is also communicated and seen, or like, what's the word? Sorry, translating. It's been a long day for me. It's also reflected, I think that's the word, in the art community. So, with the stereotype of the LGBTQIA community, always bright, bubbly, but there's always this connotation that we're always just celebrated or seen at nighttime, which is so terrible. I want to see our beautiful faces in the sunlight. Huh? How does someone who resides in the suburb feel about this? I'm looking at you, Dane. As performers, it's usually, done at night. I get the lighting and staging,
Yeah.
But how does that make you feel knowing that there's that, unfair stereotype of our community and then being reflected in our own practices?
It's unfortunate because, like, with the whole idea of how the nightlife in the queer scene is perceived, the unfortunate thing is because queer people have been started to gain notoriety and more acceptance, but it started around the 80s and 90s in the nightlife when that was kind of in the club scene and people were taking notice of that, and it's kind of just skyrocketed to now. But the most unfortunate thing about that is we're still being perceived as that when it's so much more than just, partying or being sex crazed or just being judgy and.
Some of us just want to have coffees, by the bookstore or have a picnic.
I'm naturally extroverted, and I'm lucky in that sense to be able to go up to people and talk to them and be sociable, and I love going out and all that. But I know there are some of even my close friends who are not only queer, but they are extremely introverted, or they just don't like going out to loud venues or with flashing lights and loud music and just a lot of sweat. Sometimes they just prefer to stay at home or go to a cafe, and also it's frustrating having to. There was a level of frustration whenever I was doing drag and still living around the Dandenong area, having to make that trip, sometimes on public transport, to Fitzroy or Collingwood to go to the gigs and go and have a good time. Like, if in the near, distant future, hoping it's near, we have venues that pop up around the southeast that are queer friendly, or whether it be nightclubs, cafes, restaurants, pride spaces that not only extroverts can enjoy, but introverts as well, who are queer and live in the southeast. It would be much more accessible for everyone.
Agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Nino, do you want to give your thoughts about this question?
I guess it's more not in the nightlife aspect. I guess it's more of the stereotype that comes with being a femme lesbian. Comes with, oh, you're just a straight girl in disguise.
Oh god.
And I've gotten that like verbatim, and it's difficult once again navigating my queerness in queer spaces because of all my other intersections. That's what they focus on, and it's tricky. And that's something that I'm still learning to kind of put the forefront on, of being like, hey, I am a queer person and I'm allowed to like reclaim that label.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Definitely.
Sam?
Yeah, on the topic of like art stuff, kind of touching on what Dean was saying, I do projection and kind of difficult to do in the day. But yeah, I live in Pakenham and making that trek to Carlton or Fitzroy or even just the city, like, it takes it out of you. And even if it's a really fun event, you're like, cool, I got like a 90-minute trek home after this.
It's even worse with bus replacements. Oh,
Not to mention the safety issues.
Exactly,
sometimes.
yeah. Like I have, even though I don't like the term cis passing, I have the privilege of being a cis passing white dude. Like I'm fine, but even then it's kind of scary. Like it's interesting. Like as much as I love and think the nightlife scene in our community is really important, and we need it's an important space to have, but also there needs to be more. There needs to be more than that. You know, and even within the nightlife scene, safety within that scene needs to be included. Like, you know.
Yeah, agreed.
There have been many times where I've had a gig or being booked for a gig, and I'm running late. I'm notorious for running late or my phone dying. Either one happens on either day. Anyway, there have been times where I've even had to get ready on the train. So
that's fun.
Taking out the makeup bag and gluing down my brows on the train and putting all that on.
Yeah.
Thank the Lord, if there is one, that I was surrounded by people that were intrigued by it more than disgusted. They were like, "What are you doing?" More than rather than, "Oh God, don't look at him." It's just they were rather also as soon as they. The one indication I could tell when someone was like accepting, they smiled. I made eye contact with them. I smiled, saying, "Look, I'm harmless. I'm 5'2" and weigh nothing. I won't hurt anybody." And then they smiled back, and now it was that huge sigh of relief of, "Oh my God, okay, I'm not going to get beat up tonight, thank God."
Yeah.
But the trek there, and then having to be reminded later in the night, "Oh, you have to go back home. You either have to catch a cab, or catch the bus, and the train, and another bus, and another
maybe
train.
walk, like,
Yeah. It's frustrating having to kind of think, I wish I could live closer to the city. Instead of,
but also
"Can't I
like
just stay here?"
Exactly.
Yeah.
But also like within that comes the double-edged sword of like, I love the Southeast, I love this area. God, why isn't there more stuff like nightlife in the Southeast even? Like, come on.
I mean, there are RSLs, but come on, that's not enough.
Yeah.
We can't party in 4, you know? Oh, yeah. Well, thank you, everyone, for your lovely answers. It's a good insight, you know, because security and safety is still something that we all go through and have. Sometimes we walk out of our doors, we don't think about it. But the moment someone does a little gesture and you pick it up, you're like, oh, that's right. I'm not, I'm not cis or I'm not straight and I could get hurt. And that's why it's a bit problematic that the stereotype is always linked back to the nightlife. And also linking back to the nightlife, it's always the younger ones that gets talked about. But we have seniors in our community too. Yeah, so it's an interesting space with stereotype and whatnot.
And it's very strange also. Sorry, I just had a thought. I'm like,
Go
there is
on.
a thought. It's also very strange. It's not only cis straight people taking issue with us. Sometimes, and I've experienced this plenty in the nightlife, sometimes it's queer people themselves.
I was gonna say,
sometimes
other gay people
the
can
call
be
is coming
brutal.
from inside the house.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like that.
We
Yeah.
gatekeep our own. That's what they say.
Yeah. The amount of cis guys who've told me I have like a fetish or something because I only date other trans people is like, huh? Like, we're in the same, what? Yeah, sometimes the call is coming from inside the house.
Yeah.
It's a
Very
sad
strange.
reality,
Yeah.
isn't it? Oh,
But there
well,
are ways to combat that.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
with compassion, education, mostly education, but compassion.
Compassion's needed as well.
Yeah.
But also education.
both, a little sprinkle of both.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you. We will now move on to question 3. So then we can open up the space for any questions from our audience. So last question, I know that was a heavy topic. Bear with us, but this is the reality of our people, right? To have a silver lining or a gleam of hope, I would like to ask you 3 of, if it was up to you, not thinking about money, the bureaucracy, all that stuff, what do you envision the future of queer creatives in the Southeast or the suburbs or the regions or even the remote places that don't have like a train line the most, I'll look at you, Nina, because, we'll go right
Eye
there.
contact with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
For me, I want there to be a permanent space for queer people, not just a pop-in, hey, once a month type of thing, like an actual space dedicated, and not it in the sense of, oh, let's segregate them. Like, it's more of, you can come into this space and literally do like different types of events, different types of art shows, or whatever the case may be, and just be ourselves and not be like judged for it so freaking harshly. And just like a beautiful utopia, essentially. And just a magical freaking kingdom.
Just to coexist, right?
Yeah.
Without
Chill.
all of that
Like,
labels.
and
Yes.
breathe, I think, is the main thing, because there's so many pressures being put onto us trying to navigate these spaces, and it's tiring. Like, it really is just
So
tiring.
exhausting.
And just to come into a space and not have to worry or think, oh, if I do something somewhat queer, then I'm gonna get hate crimed. You know what I mean? Like, just that, like, beautiful utopia.
Yeah, especially coming from, like we both have immigrant backgrounds, and it's also hard space already to navigate being an immigrant, plus being queer, plus being a woman identifying. This is
And another thing is accessibility.
Yes.
So a lot of these places aren't wheelchair friendly. And as much as I love traveling and going back and forth, but it's not it's not like realistic to travel 2.5 hours. Like, I live in the city now, so it's not bad, but it's more of, what happens if there's not a ramp? What happens if there's 6 flights of stairs? What happens if I fall and hurt myself? And there's not these things put in place to like ensure that I'm gonna be comfortable just like anyone else.
yeah. Thank you.
That's my utopia.
Yeah, oh, I love that utopia. I'm just imagining what the building would look like, Now I'm building through Sims. Sims is like this house game, like you can build whatever you want there. So also, it's a great game. I'm not being sponsored, just saying.
We don't have Sim sponsorship, not yet.
Wink, wink.
Yes. Sam or Dane?
You want to go first?
What could there be done if it was all up to me? I think not just one Pride Centre, many. Like
each
one
suburb.
one recently opened up in closer to the city. I'm like, great. What about where else?
Yeah.
And like we are seeing certain venues or centres open up in like the western suburbs with Pride of Our Footscray, a nightclub there. We got a lot of like the whole Smith Street in Fitzroy is chock full of queer nightclubs. Even in Richmond, there's a few bars that can be queer friendly. But there needs to be more in the southeast, not just nightlife. There needs to be like pride centres or workshops or certain events that are initiatives put in place that
Like community
cater.
hubs?
Pardon?
Like community hubs?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Exactly. There needs to be more of those in the suburbs, even in the rural areas. Because it takes forever to get to these places if they're in the city or up north or in the west.
Yeah.
Because if for up to me, just more initiatives like that.
Yeah, and I know I'm moderating, but touching base on that, you know, with events and spaces, seems like most of the time, spaces like that only comes along during midsummer or Pride
Yeah,
Month,
when it's
where we're
all eyes are on
tokenized, which
us.
is great, but we need spaces that doesn't just center around that, right? We need spaces that is all year round.
Yeah.
Because
Definitely.
we exist all year round,
Yeah.
all
We don't
decades,
just manifest
and
around
many
Pride
more
Month.
to come.
Like-
Exactly.
Not to like cut you off again.
Yeah,
but, like,
that's all
I feel
right.
like with those type of events and like festivals, they kind of weaponize it in the sense of like, well, you guys can't complain now because
they commodify it, absolutely.
yeah, it's like you guys can complain. We have Pride Month.
It's
and
performative
there's, like, barely
activism.
any
Yeah.
events.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but it's not safe for everyone.
Exactly.
'Cause it's always, oh, shove alcohol in your face.
I was about to say, it's like the rainbow vodka bottles they release. It's like, not like our community doesn't have a complicated relationship with alcohol or anything. Like, yay, now it's rainbow.
like the fact that big companies and certain events like Midsummer and all that are kind of capitalizing on queerness.
I was gonna
It's-
say rainbow capitalism, yeah.
Yeah, like I get it, but at the same time, don't.
Yeah. I get wanting to be involved, not like that though, you know?
Like I could see the intention behind it, but I can also see how it could be detrimental to others.
Yeah.
Or like the rainbow Skittles, but they made them all white.
What was the purpose of that anyway?
They were like,
Because we're
we're,
all the same.
yeah, or like
my
we're giving the
God.
rainbow. I was like, come on, guys.
Tell
come
me
on.
there's a color inside.
No.
No, it's
It's just
just
all white.
white.
Wow.
Which I guess makes sense. Yeah, I mean,
That makes it worse.
that makes it worse. They
makes
made
it
it
worse.
actively worse.
They take the rainbow out of it.
Just got rid of their slogan.
What was I about to say? Touching on what you said about accessibility, like I know there is a lot of venues out there that have that their ways of accessibility are atrocious, and the unfortunate thing is, we can't really change or completely renovate a certain venue because of
Find another place.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
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 It's not that hard.
No, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you, Will Sam.
We got into a different.
No, I mean that is how sexuality is, right? And creativity. There is fluidity in everything that we do and
Smooth
everything that we are. You know, so it's always gonna go on a tangent. It's always gonna be fluid. There's so many issues in our own community being queer. And then you touch on being creative as well. There's just so much layers that we cannot unpack in just 1 hour session, you know? So it's fine. Please do not apologize if we go on a tangent, because that is the way we live our life. But I'll give it to Sam before we start taking questions
I
from
mean,
our
yeah,
audience.
aside with agreeing with everything that these two guys have said, because, oh my God, absolutely 100%. I also think I would love to see a space that is not just a creative space, not just completely accessible, but also multi-purpose in the sense of like Equinox. I think they used to be in Fitzroy, but I know they're in Abbotsford now. Like GPs, STI testing, like as well as being
The
a space.
healthcare needs
Exactly,
to be
yeah.
better.
Like
Yeah.
I'm totally cool with traveling to Fitzroy or Abbotsford. I don't feel like I need to, or I don't feel like I should need to do that if I want to, you know, be safe.
Yeah.
I mean,
Of
like
course.
it's very important, just like
Yeah.
in general, but also especially for our community. Like.
Yeah,
But yeah.
so
also,
true.
yeah, more spaces. I want more spaces.
Feels unnecessary to have having to travel so far just to get a health check.
Exactly. Yeah. Like it needs to be more accessible and just like more accessible with general medical care. Like I'm, like I said earlier, white, cis-passing, binary trans man. The amount of insane medical questions I've been asked by doctors who don't even know what being trans is. Like when I first moved to Pakenham, I found this GP like 11 minutes from my house. And I was in like an 11-minute walk. And I was like, oh yes, I'm on testosterone. And he was like, okay, so when are you gonna stop taking it? And I'm like, that's not how this works, mate. Like, I had to kind of, you're not in a fun position where you have to educate your own GP about your own lived experience.
Only
And
amount
like,
of times I had to do that, that's insane.
yeah. So just more education in general, more spaces, especially in rural areas, Like everywhere needs it, but rural areas need it.
Agreed.
But yeah.
Well, awesome. Thank you, three. Before we wrap this up, should we have a little 5-minute break? Or do we take questions now? How do we feel?
We can take questions now.
Okay.
Do you want to do questions?
Yeah.
If you've got a
Got one?
question, maybe pop your hand up so I can bring the mic over.
It could be queer, like
Could be art,
queer.
could be gay.
Yeah, we have some.
Mickey's like,
yes. Don't be shy.
How's it going? Hey.
Hi.
I'd love to hear more about your creative practice. So maybe speak to a recent artwork or related to queerness or not. I don't know. I liked hearing about your Jesus Cross one. Just chat about it. Nothing specific.
Perhaps I'll go first. Majority of what my practices are, like I said in my introduction, I mostly work in ballpoint pen and acrylic paint, but the subject matter is painting or drawing people, like celebrity figures. Oh, yeah, that's a that recent body of work was exhibited at the old cheese factory. What was it was called
Heating
Heating Up
Up.
2022.
Yes.
Yeah, the hay
I-
shed space.
Yeah.
Good space.
Unfortunately, I could not attend that exhibition because I had gotten COVID.
Fun.
I thought, I'm immunocompromised, so I thought I was going to get it bad, but it turns out the symptoms were not that bad, and I'm just like, why now? Why?
God.
Anyway, majority of my practice is mostly looking at bright colors and technical skill. I like to push how far I can realistically make it. Not uncanny valley, Polar Express terrifying, but I want there to be some mystical element. Like with ballpoint, the reason I started working in ballpoint pen was because majority of the artwork I was seeing on Instagram and everywhere else was all done in blue. It looked, not to sound pretentious or conceited, it just looked too sad.
Yeah.
It looked very...
It made you feel blue? I saw the chance. I had to take it. I'm sorry.
I love the humor. So I decided it's going to be very tricky, but I feel like I could do it. I fell in love with ballpoint pen in my years at TAFE. There was a project where we had to all work in ballpoint pen, and I'm like, this is amazing. I want to see how far I can take this. And last year I was doing a little bit of fan art, drawing drag artists from RuPaul's Drag Race.
Nice.
Little small portraits in ballpoint pen. They're on my TikTok as well.
TikTok?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Well, my drag self is. But I then decided, let's do local artists, local drag artists. So I'm up in the top left corner. There, that's how I usually do my makeup, but all of that there, it was very fun to work through, and I did get consent from all the other performers, say, hey, I'm going to use your images for this, is this okay? And then they're like, go for it.
Nice.
And just being able to play with color, breathing life into these drawings, it was so satisfying. That's majority of my work, because growing up, I was born with a rare medical condition, prune belly syndrome. Basically, I was born with no stomach muscle, so I was in and out of hospital like crazy. But one thing that I always loved watching were Disney movies and cartoons, something magical and mystical. My favorite scene is the dress transformation scene in Cinderella. It just breathed life. And I like to emulate that kind of feeling in my art. Because the world's not all doom and gloom all the time. There is an appreciation and love for the little things as well. And I like to do that with my art. Like a lot of people have said, why is your art so happy all the time? I'm like, it's not that. The only project I've worked on that's pertaining to anything serious was my medical condition, and that was in my TAFE years, and it was mostly for myself. Because when I was working on it, it was very cathartic. It was a whole emotional moment. But then from then on, I kind of was like, no, only look to the positives. Because that's where my life was headed. I'm like, I can't be sad all the time.
Amazing.
Thank you, Dan.
So like beautifully put.
Yeah, that was so well worded. Oh my god.
A bit of ad lib.
Sam or Nino?
Yeah, if you wanna go.
Sure thing. So my art journey, I grew up same as Dean, being in the hospital and being a kid who just didn't know how to control her anxiety. So I started drawing and painting became therapy for me. Being able to put my negative thoughts into a safe space and being able to look back at it and be like, look at how far I've come. And so my journey began with Connection Art Space.
Welcome back to Connection Art Space.
It always is. So I started exhibiting artwork there, and then I further moved on to my own endeavors, whether it be modeling. Did modeling for a little bit, freelancing. It was fun, I loved it, but then I got very awkward being in front of the camera, SS2. Yeah, and so then I transitioned into Over the Rainbow, and Over the Rainbow became my passion baby, and just kind of finding the right space for it, and just talking to people, and what's the word I'm thinking of? Networking, and just trying to find where I can put Over the Rainbow. And then Bunjil Place came along. And then I'm now currently working on a podcast that I run with my cousin, and we talk about being South Sudanese women and us being both queer and the intersections that we have, both being creatives. She's a model, I'm a freelance artist. What else am I doing? That's really it that I can think of right now. But yeah, that is a little bit more about my art practice.
Thank you. Sam?
Yeah, so I went to a Catholic all-girls school for 13 years, and you don't come out of that, especially going to Mass every fortnight, without something about a bit of a weird feeling about religion. So yeah, I was never really like a proper practicing Catholic, but it was just kind of there so much that I was like, this is gonna stick with me. So I got the majority of my trans angst out in my first 2 years of uni. I graduated last year, so it's like a 4-year thing. But yeah, at the moment, I'm working like 5 days a week, so I haven't had the chance to actually put the concept into like physical form yet. But I'm gonna do a series of installation / collage / wearable work, still figuring it out, about using Catholic imagery in conjunction with the leather scene, fetish wear, and my own trans identity to kind of poke fun at some stuff, and I'm very excited.
I like the idea of that. Oh
Thank
my
you.
God.
I want to make like
You need to wear it.
yeah, I mean, collab? For my honors projects last year, I did a massive sculptural installation piece about my trans identity, the fact that I came out in high school, and kind of talking about that through the lens of Catholicism and Renaissance / Baroque imagery, as seen in my collages. I also work to music a lot, so that was inspired by, I'm not sure if you all know the hyperpop band 100 Gex, but it was that, yeah. A lot of loud electronic that kind of sounds like pots and pans being bashed together, but it's fun.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So
To each his own.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm working through that. But the fabric I used was like party satin, which is essentially just a cheaper version of satin. and I chose it in like a kind of dark pink because I wanted it to look like priest vestments I saw when I was a kid. So I'm going to make that into a bulldog harness.
Oh my God.
And maybe string a rosary, I don't know. So yeah,
Maybe.
figuring that out. So yeah, that's the thing I got in the works.
Awesome. Thank you all. Awesome. Do we have any more questions from our audiences tonight? Trying to see you all with all these lights.
Yeah,
on
the
my
lights
eyes.
are...
Yeah.
Takes a minute for my eyes to adjust.
This is for everyone. I'd love to hear more about how growing up in suburbia, living in suburbia, might have informed who you are as queer people and might have informed your practice. So you dove into that a little bit, which I really loved, or a lot, which I really loved. And I'd love to hear just more from that from everybody.
Who wants? Why are you looking at me and
Because
then
I'm
at
like,
Dean?
you pick someone.
Yeah, you pick moderator.
This
Go.
is an open space,
Go,
my
moderator,
friend.
go.
We all just looking.
I'm not here to answer questions tonight.
I grew up in both suburban Hoppers Crossing, Werribee, the west side, and suburban Dandenong, Endeavour Hills. So I got not the best of both worlds, but I got a sense of two different areas of Melbourne, which was insane. But I think I don't know, it was very unfortunate that it was kind of stifling being surrounded by people that just didn't get it. Like, on top of being queer and being an artist, I was also in hospital. I was disabled, so there was there was this level of more misunderstanding or miscommunication, or everyone was just immediately assuming the worst.
Sorry. Is there any difference between the west and the south, east side, suburbs wise? Because I hear there is, but I've never
feel like-
lived on the other side.
Well, the southeast is more religious.
Hi.
And the west is very much bogan as hell. It's these two different ideals. I was not raised religious.
Neither was I.
So, my mother was an ex-Catholic. My dad's a Buddhist. They did nothing with me. But I mostly grew up in a hospital and going to school in the suburbs. I went to public school, so it was very strange hearing not only multiple people, opinions of diverse people, but just multiple belief systems. Some were religious, some were not. And from my perspective and from my way of life, it was very confusing because I didn't know what to believe. I didn't know who to trust, and I didn't know how to fully form an opinion of someone without thinking, oh wait, there's this, and this also from, Joe Blow over in the west side. It was very confusing, and how that integrates in my practice is I try to include everyone. Not just one specific thing. I try everything. My mother always told me, because I was a very picky eater growing up, my mother always told me, try it once. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it again. And that's basically what I've done with art. I've been doing drawing, sculpting, sewing, painting. I've tried all them. Sculpting's very freaking hard. Air drying clay? No. But, and I've just started tackling sewing. And that is a big, big ordeal. But growing up learning how to draw and paint, those two fundamentals, it helped kind of for me to have a baseline. It's good to have a baseline so then you can actually just work your way up into, or just to branch out. That's mainly what I do in my practice, is just to branch out. Learn new things all the time.
Awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Nice.
Sam or Nino?
My apologies, but can you repeat the question again?
How do you feel Suburbia might have informed your creative practice or your own queerness or just who you are as a person now?
Growing up with someone who has so many different intersections, finding my space and like my practice was very difficult because a lot of it was to do with healing my inner child, and being in a house where religion was not necessarily pushed on you, but it was kind of like, hey, come to church. And navigating that was confusing is the only way I can really describe it. And I feel like a lot of my works at the moment don't really involve my queerness. I feel like I unintentionally hide it, or I unintentionally try not to put it at the forefront because of my physical appearance and my wheelchair being the main thing where people come up to me like, oh, you're in a wheelchair, tell me about this. So I never really delve into making art and making, what's the word I'm thinking of? Like physical things to do with my queerness. And it's definitely something that I do want to touch on, like being in a different space now physically. Because yeah, I feel like I've been engraved to be like ashamed of it unintentionally. And so now I'm kind of like, let me be quiet about it. But which is very contradictory because I run a queer collective where it's like gay, gay, gay. But I'm like, yeah.
Not for me though.
Yeah, so it's very weird being in a religious household and being so open and being like, hey, I'm a queer artist and da da da, and then coming home being like, what did you do today? Nothing.
Oh, bless.
Yeah, but no, that's a little bit. Don't know whether that answered your question.
No, I think I totally answered my question. I think it just manifests in different ways in our practice, and you can't really help it.
Yeah. Also, this is really random. You have a very aesthetically pleasing voice.
Thank you. I get paid for it.
Amazing. Thank you, Nino. Sam?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up around Murrumbina, Hughesdale, and I went to school in Caulfield for 13 years at the same place, because it's one of those places that was like prep to 12, and there was, by the end of it, it was me and like 7 other people who'd like been there for the whole 13 years, and it was like, well, I still don't know you very well. But
You all didn't hang out together?
no,
Okay.
one of them was a homophobe.
Okay, let's...
Fair point.
Exactly. Yeah, but yeah, no, it was this weird sense of disconnect. Like you'd think going to a pretty big school, you'd know a bunch of gay people, but it was honestly my first, like, the first gay person I probably met, aside from like an uncle who I didn't know was gay at the time, was like my sister. I mean, she's my twin. She came out as gay when she was like 14 or something, and like that was like my experience with meeting other people in my community was pretty limited, even when I went to uni. Because again, like I kind of got all my trans angst. Like my identity and my art are very, very much linked together. Like it's kind of hard to tell where one stops and the other begins. Kind of, if that makes sense. Like I've been making art about my gender for, I don't know, 4 years now. Jesus. Like it's definitely changed. But like, in terms of how Suburbia influenced it, like, probably just made me kind of, this is gonna sound bad, but like, in my own head about a lot of stuff. Like, in terms of making art about religion and about my gender, I kind of was like, okay, what's in my brain? What's been dealt with? Like, I didn't really feel like I could talk to, or had the opportunity to talk to other trans people about their experience with religion or their experience with, like, you know, going to an all-girls school, not being allowed to graduate with your preferred name at the time. Like, yeah. Had one teacher who fought really hard for it, and she was like, sorry, you couldn't do it. I'm like, it's fine. But yeah, like, even though I grew up not close to the city, but close-ish, like Murrumbina, Hughesdale is like, what, a 20-minute train ride from the city? Like, it wasn't, like, I didn't have any gay friends growing up. Like, not when I was a kid. And even in high school, there was like maybe 2 people I knew. Like, me and my sister were the only gay people in our entire grade. Like, there was no one else. It's not that my school was against it, they just kind of didn't know what to do with us. But yeah, they weren't like, kill all gays, but when I was like, hey, I'm a guy, can I just please be referred to by this name? They were like, well, we have conservative backers, so no. But yeah, it wasn't stifling in a sense, but it was just kind of like, I got out of high school and into uni, and then all of a sudden I had no straight friends, and I was like, this is kind of fun. This is dope, actually. I don't know, does that answer the question? Yeah. Cool. No. Oh, good.
Awesome. Well, it is now 8 o'clock, so I'm sorry if you guys had any more questions, but that is the end of our panel discussion tonight. Thank you so much for our 2 questions. So I just want to thank you as my panelist for having no, I said that. That's it's
a general gesture.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you all.
Thank you.
And thank you all also for coming tonight and tuning in with us. It was such a lovely discussion, and we hope this gives space to, our queer creatives or even just queers in the area that we do exist, and we are here to support each other. So also,
And more events happen.
No, I'm winking at Joby. Really great rainbow community picnic. We need more of that, please. I want the furry babies to come back again.
Give us some more, please.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you also, Sarah and the Bunjil Place for having us.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks
that wraps it up. So
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for that wonderful discussion. It was really, really, really fantastic. And thanks for the excellent questions as well.
Yeah,
that was really great and just extended the discussion in a really fantastic way. So that kind of brings us to the end of the talk portion of the night. You're very welcome to stay and chat and have some food, have some drinks, and relax for a bit. We do have one more of these, well, actually we have many more of these, but the next one of these talks is in April. The information's on the little postcards on your tables. It'll be totally different to this. It's about grief, memory, and objects, and is connected to our current exhibition in the gallery, which is 1 foot on the ground, 1 foot on the water. So we hope we'll see you there as well. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.